Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers, sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangrove of South Florida. And today's date is Wednesday, May 19th, 2020. Yeah, so I know I haven't been doing a lot of shows, and I do apologize for that. Just been focusing on other things, trying to get stuff for the property out in the mountain state. And just keeping things low-key, you know. Power's been an issue, but just minor stuff, nothing to cut my wrist over. Yeah, I recently got this solar power panel or charger called Secure. Pretty cool stuff. You know, I try to put it in the sun as well, and it does give you power. So it's good to keep them handy, especially when things do occur. So I'm happy about that. Yeah, yesterday they had this rally at the Broward County Government Center pertaining to reopen Broward County, and you got some good folks out there. I see the one "Don't Tread on Me" gas and flag with the volunteerism colors, black and yellow, and so it's pretty cool. I mingled with one of the participants there. Is a reference to reopening and tracking and tracing, which Bertha Henry, the administrator for Broward County, believes is okay to nicely, how she said nicely, take family members away, take members away of the family or children, for example, and put them in these quarantine areas. Oh yeah, I do recall Bertha Henry was the author of the speech permit on November 8th, 2011, when, I guess after I spoke, said it was nothing more than rhetorical deception. Her associate at the time, Commissioner Lieberman, wigged out, and she wasn't too happy with that. So, and her defense was for your own safety. So it tells you about her. She hates freedom. She despises the Declaration of Rights, and she wants to be a control freak. But I've been there for all those years, and people say, hey, how about this fire the clown, for goodness sakes? Because as far as I'm concerned, she's a proud oath breaker. Damn right. So, so some of the participants talking about the whole, freedom and all that. They use some of the incorporate documents. I gave them a rundown on one of them participants on the Broward County resolution affirming civil rights to all Broward County residents, which was passed on May 6, 2003. So I always tell people, you got to throw all the ammunition at them. You don't want to do a checkmate. You don't want to use one federal constitution, because that's considered a corporate doctrine. And don't get me wrong, it's good, but you want to go across the board. The more you know, the more you multitask, the less they can counter. And I can tell that for a fact. So, but it's nice that they're out there. I can see more people start opening up. So, looks like some people still doing the whole COVID-19 standards and all that. But the question is, like I said before, Kio Bono, who benefits? And I noticed, too, the pastor from Tampa has recently been released, or charges of drop, which is good, because sheriff and his sidekick, DA, have no merit. And the funny thing about that, because I remembered in an article, I think I did one article pertaining when they released a lot of the inmates from the jail, and one of them got charged for murder. Nice call there, sir. You worry about the churchgoers, but you can't take care of your own facilities or manage them. Oh, you know how that goes, folks. It's politics. Yes, I know more than you, but I can't even wipe my own rear end. So, speaking of the whole, pandemic thing and so forth, COVID-19, and it looks like more people still wigging out as usual, and I see it on Facebook. I'm like, good grief, let's all cut our wrists in the name of security. I want George Orwell's 1984 a true fact, which is coming out. But make it official. We should all go, thank you, big brother. Without you, I couldn't even take care of my own affairs. So please take care of me, because I cannot think for myself. So that's why you see all these suppressions of censorship on these videos. I know David Icke got censored and many others. Even That's the Point, who's a big Trump supporter, he got blackballed too. So it doesn't matter. You don't have to be a Trump lover. okay, to defend them. When it comes to freedom of speech or censorship, everyone should be jumping on board because you can be next. And that's the damn truth. Yeah, I'm right now in the City of Fort Lauderdale parking lot, a little shopping here. Mr. Nick Subs out here, a few places. But it's pretty quiet right now. You may hear some little construction and so forth, but that's part of the deal. So without further ado, I'm going to be focusing on about the whole COVID-19. The pandemic reopening is a fake out. This is what Brandon Smith has to say about it. And I know he writes for other stuff, alt market and all that. But this one came from the, this one's been posted from the BobLivingstonLetter.com alerts. So, this is what he has to say. How does one define an economic reopening? I think most people would say that a reopening means that everything goes back to the way it was before the crisis, or at least close as possible. Simply saying America has reopened while keeping many restrictions in place in certain parts of the country, continuing to inject bailout after bailout and continuing to a steady number of deaths from coronavirus seems to be a bit of a farce. For example, both New York and Los Angeles have extended their lockdown, with Los Angeles' extension remaining ambiguous after they initially declared restrictions for another 3 months. New York lockdown is extended to the end of May so far. This is the case in major U.S. cities, while rural areas are mostly open. This is being called a partial reopening, but is there a purpose behind the uneven approach? As I predicted in my article, Pandemic and the Economic Collapse, the next 60 days, the restrictions will continue in major U.S. population centers, while rural areas have mostly opened with much fanfare. The result of this will be a flood of city dwellers into rural towns looking for relief from more strict lockdown conditions. In about a month, we should expect a new viral cluster in places where there was limited transmission. I suggest that before 4th of July holiday, state governments and federal government will be talking about new lockdowns using the infection spike as an excuse. This is happening in northeast China right now. Another resurgence has occurred, and 100 million people are now subject to quarantine restrictions. China's reopening is barely 2 weeks old, and concerns of infections, flare-ups were widespread. When the announcement was made, now the mainstream media seems to be confused. Is China open or locked down? Of course, we may never know how bad the problem is and what's in China, as their numbers have been shown to be utterly rigged, but the point is that the term reopening is meaningless there, just as it will be meaningless in the U.S. So the whole thing is going to be back and forth, like playing table tennis, okay? Get the ping pong ball there, going back and forth. This is part of the plan. The farce of reopening has a purpose. I discussed this in great detail in my article, Waves of Mutilation, Medical Tyranny, and the Cashless Society. See, they want us to use credit cards, do everything online, and soon probably put the body chip for your own safety to defeat the coronavirus or COVID-19. Okay, we'll continue on here. This was published in April. The globalists are clearly the only beneficiaries of this event, with a worldwide surveillance state now openly on the table, along with an accelerated shift into digital currency system. The globalists are either taking advantage of this crisis to push their agenda, or they create the crisis to push their agenda. In the white papers published by globalists in the Imperial College of London and MIT, the plan is openly admitted. They suggest using waves of economic openings and then lockdowns to control the spread of virus. The timelines seem to vary, but in general, the models call for a 1 month open, 2 months closed cycle. The goal is to deliberately increase infections every couple of months in specific regions of the country, then declare economic shutdown and quarantine measures once the spread reaches a certain level. This is meant to continue until a vaccine is developed. which could take years. So they're ready for that enslavement, baby. Yeah. They want the whole world to revolve around them. When the globalists at MIT say, we are not going back to normal, this is what they mean. Right now, the general public is cheering the reopenings, but what they don't realize is that the reopenings are an illusion. Restrictions are going to remain in place in some states and cities, while they will be lifted and then reinstituted in others. In fact, the situation is going to become much worse over time by design. That's the term, folks. It's being done by design. The next lockdown, whenever it is announced, will be absolutely devastating to the U.S. economy, which is already a downward spiral. The mitigating factors will be how effective central bank stimulus is at stalling the free fall, not very effective so far. What percentage of small businesses survive the first lockdown, and how many jobs those businesses can bring back to the economy. The first lockdown may be survivable for a large percentage of Americans and businesses. The second lockdown will financially destroy all but the most prepared. And make no mistake, there will be more lockdowns. In the meantime, international banks like Wells Fargo and JP Morgan have seen to that small businesses are hit hard by the crisis by funneling bailout money and paycheck loans to the larger clients over the smaller businesses that the money was intended to go to. One of 300,000 clients of JP Morgan that applied for an emergency loan through the government bailout program, only 18,000 actually received one. Of many of these clients were not small businesses. See, this is in benefiting corporate America. The road to technocracy, fascism, tyranny, etc. Okay, how economic that is. And if the cycle like lockdowns continue, small business will be wiped off the map. The elites have rigged the game. They control where every dollar of the bailout money goes, and many other corporations are the only institutions that are equipped to survive the onslaught. Some of these companies will go down, but in the long run, the goal, in my view, is the total centralization of production and distribution. This is like Abraham Lincoln's wet dream, you know? Read the book The Real Lincoln, and you understand where I'm coming from. This is exactly what happened during the Great Depression when J.P. Morgan and other major banks devoured thousands of small local banks across the country and removed them as competitors from the system. After the Depression, banking was completely centralized into the hands of a select few mega companies. Today, they are attempting to erase all localized small business competition to international corporations, taking over the business's infrastructure of entire nations and removing all independent competition is the only one incentive for the lockdowns to continue. There is also the process of assimilating the public to the idea that lockdowns are the new normal. While I do see resistance in certain parts of the world, including the U.S., many countries in Asia and Europe have witnessed a rather sheepish response to the idea of medical tyranny. I also see an immense flash flare of unconstitutional legislation and illegal state measures being rolled out in the U.S. when the public is distracted by the financial circumstances and the virus threat. You always got to analyze everything at once. Don't just worry about one place, folks. That's what we call it, a distraction. Certainly, it appears that most Americans hate the lockdowns, but will they be fooled by the reopening into complacency for the next several weeks while the government gets ready to hit them in the next round of restrictions? Will they be so caught off guard that they won't know how to react? Imagine the economic devastation of just one more nationwide lockdown event. It will be carnage, and a lot of hope within the population will be lost. This will lead to two possible paths: submission or rebellion. Either the majority of the American people will accept the lockdown as a new fact of everyday life, or will they become so enraged by the destruction of their economy that they will revolt? If the intent is to keep the cycle going until a vaccine is introduced and elitist publications assert, then we have a long way to go, and this first lockdown was child's play compared to what comes next. The excuse for the wave model will be that they need to control and slow the spread of infection over time to avoid overwhelming our medical infrastructure. But this makes very little sense to me at this stage. Perhaps within the first month or two, of the pandemic, that this makes some sense, so that we could gauge the threat of the virus. We must know right now is that the virus is at least 3 times more deadly than the annual flu, which is something to be concerned about, but not something we should be destroying our economy over. Frankly, there is no logic to the wave model unless the agenda is to destroy the economy. If the goal is to continue infecting the population until everyone has developed an immunity or a vaccine is offered, then why not simply remove all the lockdowns permanently and get it over with now? This would result in far fewer deaths in the long run compared to the economic collapse. If the goal is the so-called herd immunity, then we can achieve that much faster through viral transmission than waiting years for a vaccine that may or may not work. But the elites don't care about herd immunity. What they care about is control. The vaccine narrative itself is a form of control. You have to wait for the establishment to save you. You have to wait for them to allow the economy to be open, even for a short period of time, so that you can then be followed to work or run your business. You have to wait for your permission to live your normal life. And if the elites get their way, you won't be given permission until you accept immunity passports, tracking apps and vaccines. Bill Gates loved that stuff, climaxing to the core as well. I'll be covering the vaccine issue in a future article, so folks, check it out. Go check out his work, please. But the underlying message that the public is hearing daily is that you no longer have the power to make decisions for yourself. You must wait for instructions, while the coronavirus is something that you should be taken seriously to a point. The wave model is not an acceptable solution to the problem. Don't be fooled by the reopening. It is not real because it is not meant to last. It is a steam valve to calm the public outrage and to condition us to periodic tyranny. The elites believe that we will eventually assimilate to lockdowns as long as we have reopening to look forward to a couple of months down the road. They believe that our tendency to rebel will be suppressed by false hopes that the next reopening will be permanent reopening. They believe that after 18 months or more, the wave model will be so desperate for normalcy that they will do anything to get it, including willingly giving up every last ounce of freedom we have left. This is the true purpose of the pandemic. Well, you cannot refute that, folks. Done by design, New World Order 101. Many folks out there need to learn the lessons of 9/11. If you haven't, you're a lost cause. And in addition to these bailouts, which I proudly oppose, everyone's going to point the finger at Donald Trump. And make sure you give the same treatment, if you're going to do that for you because he signed it, you give the same treatment to your House of Representatives and Senate. If you don't, you're a poser, a hypocrite, a two-faced stooge. That's right. Because they got some dumbed-down idiots in the House of Representatives and the Senate voted for this. So you know what? You better call every single one of them out. If you're going to focus on the president, then you're a fool and illiterate, and you have no merit. Always remain vigilant on your health, my friends. This is the New World Order agenda, regardless if you like it, believe it, or not. Prove me wrong if you dare, or write a letter to Brandon Smith on this matter. I've been following his work for a good period of time, and I enjoy it. We're all on the same page. Well, that will be it. I like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or send something interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to Decorum. Furthermore, I will leave the footnote of this article on my Spreaker page. And if you want to donate, you can go to paypal.me/LokiLuck3. Make sure I'll put that on the footnotes as well. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance has helped you for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love. And may your guardian spirits be with you.